So Kanye West has said some things about Pete Davidson.
God sent me from that crash just so I could beat Pete Davidson's ass.
He may be getting himself into a world of legal trouble. Now, unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have some familiarity with the public fighting between Kim Kardashian and her ex and baby father, Kanye West. Now, in the aftermath of this bitter divorce, fans and observers have expressed concern about Kanye's increasingly erratic public behavior against Kim Kardashian, his threats against people like Kardashian's new partner, Pete Davidson, and feuds with comedians like Trevor Noah who criticize West's conduct. So today we're going to cover the laws of harassment, stalking, and domestic violence, and analyze to what extent Kanye's eccentric bluster crosses the line into potential criminality, and addresses the legal measures that Kardashian and Davidson could take to protect themselves and their children as well, and what's going to happen to Kanye's kids in the aftermath of this erratic behavior. Now, even if you've never watched the Kardashians reality show, the family's forays into everything from music and politics into popular culture have made it increasingly difficult to not keep up with the Kardashians, whether you wanted to or not. But if you managed to stay uninformed about the Kardashians for this long, well, too bad, because we're going to cover what in the world is going on. Now, here's a brief timeline of the Kim-Ye saga based on publicly available facts. Now, Kim and Kanye began dating in 2012 before they formally tied the knot in 2014. The couple shares 4 children, daughters North and Chicago, and sons Saint and Psalm. Now, as the years went by, West's struggles with mental health began to spill into the public view. And in November 2016, 1 month after Kim was famously robbed at gunpoint at her hotel in Paris, West triggered backlash and confusion at his performances by going on controversial rants about politics and race, and then ending shows early. Now, West abruptly canceled his tour and was immediately hospitalized for psychiatric evaluation due to, quote, acting erratically, during which time he was allegedly handcuffed in the back of an ambulance for his own safety. West continued to generate negative publicity for himself when he told TMZ regarding 400 years of enslavement of African Americans, quote, "That sounds like a choice." Now, he would admit in a 2018 interview with the New York Times that he feared that these comments to TMZ would cause his wife to leave him. And if that wasn't enough, in July of 2020, the music mogul took to Twitter to announce his candidacy for president of the United States, where he'd go on to earn 60,000 total votes as he missed the ballot deadline by several weeks. And then weeks after that, Kardashian posted a lengthy statement on Instagram addressing her then husband's erratic posts and struggles with bipolar disorder. Quote, "Anyone who has bipolar disorder or has a loved one in their life who does knows how incredibly complicated and painful it is to understand. I've never spoken publicly about how this has affected us at home because I'm very protective of our children and Kanye's right to privacy when it comes to his health, but today I feel like I should comment on it because of the stigma and misconception about mental health." The marriage, however, would not last, and Kardashian formally filed for divorce in February of 2021. In December of 2021, Kardashian petitioned the court to declare her, quote, legally single and restore her maiden name, declaring their marriage, quote, irredeemably broken down and, quote, no counseling or reconciliation effort will be of any value at this time. Kanye, who had just changed his name to just Ye, opposed Kardashian's motion to be declared single, arguing issues related to custody of the children and shared properties needed to be resolved. Now, replying to Ye's motion, Kardashian told the court, quote, "I very much desire to be divorced," and that Ye's social media posts were rife with misinformation regarding our private family matters and co-parenting on social media, which has created emotional distress. And on March 2nd, 2022, Kim's petition to be legally single was granted. The divorce grew even more contentious when Davidson and Kardashian reportedly started dating in late fall 2021. On social media, Ye would alternate between begging Kardashian to reconcile and attacking her parenting style. In since-deleted Instagram posts, Ye expressed concern for his daughter North appearing on TikTok, claimed that Kardashian had accused him of putting a hit out on her, and claimed Kardashian was keeping his children away from him. Kardashian fired back at Ye for his constant attacks against her and criticized his purported, quote, obsession with trying to control and manipulate the situation. Ye's vitriol towards Davidson also spilled into public view in the form of a rap-based attack. In the song Easy, Ye raps, quote, "God saved me from that crash just so I can beat Pete Davidson's ass," which doesn't actually rhyme. But anyway, in one music video for the song, the claymation Ye kidnaps, beheads, and buries Davidson. In a follow-up video, an animated monkey beats up Pete Davidson. Now, in early March, Pete Davidson's friend David Sears leaked purported text messages between Ye and Davidson in which the SNL star defends Kardashian as, quote, literally the best mother I've ever met, and confronts the rapper for his months of harassing behavior on social media against Kardashian and himself, telling Ye, quote, to grow the fuck up. Davidson purportedly informed Ye that he was in LA for the day and offered to meet privately to talk things out. When Ye asked for Davidson's location, the King of Staten Island star sent a photo of himself flashing a peace sign with his fingers sticking out and his tongue with the cheeky reply, in bed with your wife. Ye proposed meeting at his Sunday service, but Davidson refused, suggesting that Ye was more interested in publicity than resolution, and Davidson offered to help Ye with his mental health, reportedly telling the rapper, quote, it's so sad to see you ruin your legacy on the daily. Davidson wrote, let me help you, man, highlighting his own struggles with mental health. Quote, it's not an easy journey, you don't have to feel this way anymore. There's no shame in having a little help. You'll be so happy and at peace. Entertainers like Billie Eilish and D.L. Hughley began to weigh in on Ye's threatening behavior, sparking their own feuds with the rap mogul. And in a Daily Show segment, Trevor Noah called out Ye's belligerent treatment of his ex-wife, describing the whole saga as, quote, terrifying to watch, that exemplified the type of harassment that so many women go through when they choose to leave. In response, Ye angrily attacked the South African comedian on Instagram with racial slurs, earning Ye a 24-hour ban for violating the site's policies on hate speech, bullying, and harassment. Okay, so I think that means we're all caught up. Now we can talk about the legal implications of all of this erratic behavior. Now, in the face of Ye's threats against Davidson and the unstable behavior towards Miss Kardashian, some have advised them to get a restraining order. So what are the options when it comes to protecting themselves and the children when it comes to a restraining order? Well, let's start with the basics. A restraining order, also called a protective order, is a court order that can protect an individual from being physically or sexually abused, threatened, stalked, or harassed. The person the restraining order is against is called the restrained person. The person requesting the restraining order is called the protected person. And restraining orders can be broadened to include family or other household members as part of that class of protected persons. As the name suggests, a restraining order restrains a third party from committing certain actions against the protected persons. And then one type of restriction is a personal conduct order, which prohibits the restrained party from any of the following actions, including contacting the person, attacking, stalking, threatening, sexually assaulting, harassing, destroying personal property, or disturbing the peace of those protected people. And a protected person can also obtain what's called a stay-away order, which is probably the kind of restraining order you're familiar with in the media, where a restrained person has to keep a certain distance away from the protected person, or where that person lives, their place of work, the children's school, their vehicle, and other important places. And if that restrained person violates the restraining order, then they may be sent to jail or pay a fine or both. Now, additionally, a domestic violence restraining order protects an individual from abuse when the abused and the abuser are or have been in an intimate relationship. And the abuse prohibited is not limited to the actual infliction of physical injury or committing assault, as psychological torment is also included. And if the parties haven't dated and don't have a close relationship, then that falls under the purview of a civil harassment restraining order. Since Ye and Kardashian were married and have children together, Kardashian might be able to seek a domestic violence restraining order, while Pete Davidson might be entitled to seek a civil harassment order. Now, just because Ye's outbursts have mostly played out on social media doesn't make them any less potentially alarming. On the contrary, Ye's escalation on social media is typical of patterns that translate into real-world abuse. So, could Ye's conduct actually support a domestic violence protective order from Miss Kardashian? Well, if Kardashian shows that she has actually suffered emotional distress or fear of harm as a result of Ye's conduct, and that fear is reasonable, then there's a decent chance a judge would grant Kardashian a restraining order. And here there are several things that constitute abuse that would give rise to an order, but what's most relevant here is that making someone reasonably afraid that they or someone else are about to be seriously hurt through threats or promises to commit harm would qualify as abuse that would rise to the level of a restraining order. And under California law, a credible threat means intentionally saying something or acting in a way that would make a reasonable person afraid for his or her safety or the safety of his or her family. And a credible threat of violence includes following or stalking someone, making harassing calls, sending harassing messages by phone, email, mail, or over a period of time, even if it's a short time. And a threat may be implied by a pattern of conduct and need not be explicitly stated. Now, some have questioned whether Ye's repeated efforts to win back Kardashian, even after she closed the door on reconciliation, constitutes stalking. In December 2021, Ye purchased the house across the street from his soon-to-be ex-wife's house, purportedly so he could be closer to his kids. Now, during a charity event that same month, West, while Kardashian and their daughter North was in attendance, tweaked the lyrics of a song to beg for his estranged wife to return to him. In February 2022, Ye shared a photo collage of Kardashian and their children where he publicly pleaded with her to rekindle their romance, writing in a since-deleted post, quote, "God, please bring our family back together." So is this stalking or a credible threat? Well, this alone, probably not. There are 3 common defenses to stalking charges: that 1, no credible threat was made, that there was no intent to cause fear, and or 3, that the activities were constitutionally protected. Now, to date, there's been no indication that Ye has made a credible threat of violence against his ex or their family, or that his actions are calculated to cause fear. Ye's efforts to win back his ex on social media are not coupled with what would normally be considered threats to her safety, so they likely fall under constitutionally protected speech. And while moving close to one's ex can seem alarming, this act alone is not going to be enough to constitute stalking. So Ye purchasing a house to be closer to his kids is likely not stalking in the absence of threats, though it's potentially possible that Ye's actions could fall under the broader umbrella of harassment, which includes threats of violence that seriously scare, annoy, or harass someone and serves no legitimate purpose. To constitute harassment, the offender must engage in a course of conduct that would cause a reasonable person to suffer substantial emotional distress and must actually cause substantial emotional distress to the petitioner. Kardashian has already filed a motion in her divorce case saying that Ye's social media posts were full of, quote, misinformation regarding our private family matters and co-parenting on social media, which has created emotional distress. And according to one insider, Kim has grown particularly disturbed by her ex when Ye alleged in a mid-March Instagram post that Davidson, quote, will hook her on drugs. This comment allegedly alarmed Kardashian so much that she hired security to protect herself and Davidson. Quote, she's scared and is so jumpy, she is really on her guard and making sure she has security right now, and has asked Pete to also take precautions. Now, California law allows parties to get a restraining order against conduct that disturbs a person's peace, even in the absence of violent threats. And based on the publicly available evidence, it's possible that Kardashian has cause for a domestic violence restraining order against Ye for harassment and disturbing her peace. But what about Pete Davidson? Can he get a restraining order? And is rap music a criminal threat? Now, if you told me last year that I was going to analyze rap music using claymation to simulate murder, whether that could constitute a crime, honestly, I probably wouldn't have questioned it given how strange the last few years have been, but let's dive into this thing. And as I mentioned in Ye's song Easy, one of the lyrics threatens to, quote, beat Pete Davidson's ass. And in the first Easy music video, he beheads and then buries a claymation Pete Davidson. And in the next video, Ye has an animated Davidson beaten up by a monkey. Now, in response to criticism, Ye wrote on an Instagram post that art is therapy and denied that he was making threats. Quote, art is not a proxy for ill or harm. Any suggestion otherwise about my art is false and malintended. So, did Ye commit a crime in his music videos by threatening to beat up Davidson while attacking animated representations of Davidson? And does Pete Davidson have any grounds for a civil harassment restraining order against Ye? Well, Davidson's public statements that he's not afraid of Ye is probably not going to help his case for threatening this as criminal conduct. Furthermore, the leaked text messages between Ye and Davidson purport to show Davidson eager to meet Ye in public to talk things out, which undermines a claim that Davidson feels stalked or harassed or suffering from actionable, sustained fear. And furthermore, the First Amendment gives a lot of leeway to artists and gives a broad right to depict exaggerated violence against public figures so long as they don't directly declare their intention to actually hurt another person or encourage others to do so. Like when Kathy Griffin controversially held a mock severed head of then President Trump. It might have been in poor taste and knocked her from the coveted C-list to D-list, but it probably broke no laws. Given Ye's denial that he intended to threaten Davidson and Davidson's lack of fear, Ye's musical mutilation is likely not a crime. Now, that being said, there could be some really severe consequences for Kanye, at least concerning his visitation rights and custody of his children. For restrained persons, a restraining order can have very serious consequences, particularly in the context of domestic violence. And if Kardashian successfully wins a domestic violence restraining order against Ye, he could lose custody of his young children and even lose the right to be in their lives entirely. California law has special rules for custody and visitation rights when it comes to domestic violence. And a judge will treat your case as a domestic violence matter if 1, a parent has been convicted of domestic violence against the other parent in the last 5 years, or 2, any court has decided that one parent committed domestic violence against another parent or the children. And in fact, under California law, a judge cannot award custody, joint or otherwise, to the parent who committed domestic violence unless that abusive parent meets the burden to show, among other things, that custody is in the best interest of the children. The abusive parent committed a 52-week batterer intervention program and has completed any court-ordered substance abuse counseling or parenting class, has complied with any restraining orders, and has not committed any further domestic violence. If Kardashian obtains a domestic violence restraining order, it's possible, though not incredibly likely, that Ye could lose all right to custody, be subject to supervised visitation, or even be ordered to stay at least 100 yards away from his ex and their young children. Ye could be ordered to stop communicating with Kardashian and Davidson, both directly and indirectly via social media. And in fact, the family law judge handling the divorce could order Ye to stop discussing the divorce, his kids, and his ex-wife's new boyfriend with the public if Kardashian proves that she feels threatened or harmed by this conduct. Now, throughout this entire ordeal, Ye has maintained that he's always been acting in the best interest of his children. But if Ye doesn't get his act together and stop with this bizarre and potentially menacing behavior, he risks losing his family forever. Now, with situations like these, it's always important to avoid emotion and think logically, which you can learn to do with today's sponsor, Brilliant. Brilliant is an online learning platform for STEM that replaces lecture videos with hands-on interactive lessons. It's for curious learners, both young and old, professional and inexperienced. So if you'd like to exercise your brain or help your kids with school, Brilliant has you more than covered. Now, one of my favorite courses is all about logic. Brilliant's logic courses cover liar and truth teller riddles, logical fallacies, machine logic, and even some strategic game theory. And logic is a crucial skill that lawyers need every day. And Brilliant lets you learn by doing rather than listening to hours of boring lectures. Learning through doing is scientifically proven to be the most effective way to master any skill. And the courses have storytelling, interactive challenges, and problems to solve. You will absolutely love it. And within Brilliant's library, you'll find courses like calculus, linear algebra, math, and that applies to trading and finance. Basically, every scientific and mathematical thing that you would want to learn. You'll also find courses on gravitational physics, astronomy, and machine learning. Now you can sign up and start learning for free today with the link that's on screen right now, which will take you to brilliant.org/LegalEagle. And the first 200 people to sign up will also get 20% off their annual subscription. So just click on the link that's on screen right now or in the description to get 20% off your subscription to Brilliant. Plus, clicking on that link really helps out this channel. And while you're there, click on this link to all my other real law reviews for more legal news. So click on this link or I'll see you in court.